good morning, whatever time of day or night you check into this particular feed. This is ReSounding Wholeness Conversations. I'm excited to have Esther Bailey Bass here as my special guest in July of 2021. The first thing I like to do is to read the mission statement. Why do I create and facilitate these conversations? And here it goes. In a world that idolizes celebrities, gurus, athletes, fashion, the latest trends, technology, media, and more, it is our goal to highlight human beings who are sharing their unique, incredible soul's purpose and service in the world. While they may not have the biggest following yet, these courageous beings are making an incredible impact in the world, creating energetic ripples that will collectively serve to move mountains and reshape the future of humanity on the planet. We hope to encourage and inspire more people to reconnect with their unique gifts, step into their true soul's calling, take actions to serve humanity, and be a way shower at this pivotal time in history and her story. So today I have the honor of interviewing and having a conversation with Esther Bailey Bass. And Esther and I were reflecting on how long we have known each other. And we originally met in the early 2000s. We were both members of Cable, which is a very dynamic women's networking business organization here in Tennessee, in the Nashville area, and maybe around the world, or around the nation. Anyway, Esther and I connected during that time around when we were both being introduced to the circle process. And we had been in some facilitation experiences together back then. Well, fast forward about 5 years ago, we had the blessing of reconnecting in a mutual acquaintances event. And when we saw each other, it was like, oh, there's an excitement about reconnecting. And honestly, Esther and I have been developing and continue to develop a very wonderful personal and professional relationship. I'm very excited to have Esther as a part of my life, especially in recent years. And I look forward to hearing more about what she's doing and how she's inspiring the people in her life and women, uplifting women in her unique, passionate, compassionate way. So I'm going to start by reading Esther's bio. I think it's important when we write our bios, when we have our bios written, having someone reflect who we are back to us, I think is a really powerful experience. So here we go. Esther Bailey Bass, founder and principal of Ebb and Flow Lifestyle Leadership Coaching and Consulting, is an experienced and accredited life and leadership coach, healer, circle facilitator, trainer, and inspirational speaker. Before journeying onto the path of coaching, circle process, work, and facilitation, Esther spent nearly 25 years in print and nonprofit media as a sales, marketing, and fundraising professional, all the while serving on numerous nonprofit boards, honing her leadership skills. In 2012, Esther began her journey into coaching, which immediately transformed her life and unveiled her true purpose to help others to remember, reconnect, and reclaim their brilliance, and to unapologetically lead from the inside out. Esther believes that love is at the center of all leadership and uses love energy to inform her work. After leaving an 18-year career in public media, she founded Ebb and Flow Lifestyle Leadership Coaching and Consulting, where she, as the Ebb and Flow coach, focuses on professional and executive women leaders, particularly Black women and women of color who have been silenced and sidelined. A natural-born leader herself, An influencer, she often challenged the status quo and found herself unsupported, pigeonholed, and marginalized as a leader. Her potential was stifled by those who had the authority and influence to mentor and sponsor her. It took her nearly 3 years before she gained clarity and understanding from the harm and trauma she experienced during her 18-year career. Empowered with a new vision, greater sense of purpose, more knowledge and wisdom, Esther is bringing this work to the forefront. I'm about to cry. She's focusing on the untold stories of women leaders who have silently suffered the trauma of being sidelined and to help them creatively express their stories, realign with their values, heal their voices, determine their purpose, and define their mission. Esther is a self-proclaimed champion for the underdog, overlooked and underserved natural-born leaders, women of color, who are leaders by title, but silenced and sidelined within their organizations. So, what I want to start with is that I've known you many, many years. And when I received your bio, an updated, upgraded, passion-filled, compassion-filled bio a month ago, I felt the shift. I felt the change. And I was moved to say, Esther, I see you. I see you. You see you. And I want to have you start by talking about this shift, this change in your focus, and what has led you to its current formation. Please share.
Thank you, Karen, for allowing me to share my story, for you promoting me on your platform. I love you and I thank you. And you have known several iterations of me over the years. And the shift for me, it's always about reflecting. And the more conversations I have, the more um, layers that are removed and peeled back, and I get deeper to the core. And this new iteration, I have skin in the game. And as I reflect over the past is important, although we can't relive it. It's important to go back and gather the lessons. It's not an immediate process, it's something that evolves over time. And I have been reflecting over the course of my life. I turned a wonderful 55 back in May, and I don't know why I'm so giddy about it, but I am. And I've just been reflecting, and I've been learning, I've been listening, I've been reading and processing. And this is what came to the forefront lately. And that is that why did I not ever land a management role, a leadership role? Why did I not ever have that title? What was missing for me? And when I think about it, it's not that I choose to hold a victim story. I don't choose to hold a victim story. But when I look back and I go, I showed up like this and I showed up like that, some things are definitely, my responsibility in how I showed up to do my work. But I was dedicated and committed in my career. And we all want to be well used, right? In our work. No one wants to be misused. And when I reflect over that, I found so many ways in which I had been neglected, that I had been overlooked, that I was misused. And At the time, I felt like there wasn't anything I could do about it.
Mm.
However, when I did reach out for mentorship, I was met with doubt. I was met with uncertainty. I was met with, I don't know how I can help you, and I, d- it's one of those things that still is boggling to my mind right now.
Mhm.
I mean, when I've asked for mentors along the way across the course of my career for years.
Mhm.
I've always read the articles about why mentorship is important, how women are not mentored enough or sponsored enough, championed enough in the workplace. And
Mhm.
so that was my clue. Oh, I need to be asking for this. And so I set about the mission to do that. And yet, I didn't receive that.
Mhm.
And so, being the good girl and, um, acquiescing to authority, I just went about the business of doing my work. And I have accolades on the work that I did. I have deep relationships with people I worked with that still exist today. My name is known in different places, but I never elevated to a role or title, responsibility, and all the other things that come with that, the corner office with the view. I never elevated to that level of leadership.
Mhm.
What's something that always puzzles me is when someone says they're intimidated by me.
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't know how, but okay. Um, so that's always puzzling to me. Um, and maybe that was a factor. I
Mhm.
just, I don't really know without going back and asking specific people,
Right.
why not me?
Yeah.
And so what I come to realize is that I have skin in the game. I have a story,
Mhm.
and that I can help support other women who find themselves with a title of leader,
Mhm.
who are being silenced,
Mhm.
who are being marginalized, who are being sidelined.
Mhm.
And it doesn't always have to come from the top down, it can come from the bottom up, it can come from peers, you know. And it's harmful. I will say, how we don't know how harmful it is. It's physically harmful.
Mhm.
And as I'm beginning to learn about this issue of being silenced and sidelined, it's revealing to me my more of my own story when I hear stories about women who were going to work and found themselves ill, like couldn't get up that day,
Mhm.
who have experienced physical trauma and stress related to their work
Mhm.
that showed up in a myriad of different ways, digestive issues,
Mhm.
um, other respiratory health issues, um, things that can cause prolonged health challenges, and it is the healing part, not just the medicinal, medical healing part to it, but the healing comes in the creative expression and expressing ourselves. And one thing that happens to me often is when I feel stifled, I literally lose my voice. Like
Mhm.
my vocal cords constrict, shut off, and I can't, that's what happens,
Mhm.
and the more I try to speak, the more constricted this area becomes.
Mhm.
This requires healing. And so that's part of my story, Karen, for how this shift happened is personal reflection,
Yes.
over my career, and realizing that, wow, this is a thing. We walk around and we go, is that a thing? Yeah, this is a thing.
Having our voices culturally shut off,
Hmm. Hmm.
having our voices racially shut off,
Yeah.
having our, not being knowing what we're allowed to say, what we can't, what we can say, what we can't say, how people are going to receive what we say. We just all the reasons that cause lockdown. And when we're in that emotional, like we're triggered and someone says to something to us that is unacceptable, it takes a lot of practice to be able to actually in the moment say back what we need to say.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, yeah. And learning, because I had to learn this and give
Mm-hmm.
myself permission to say it. I
Mm-hmm.
need to take a moment right now and step away.
Mm-hmm.
Can we leave this door open and revisit this at some point in the future?
Mm.
This is not a good time for me to have this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had to learn that. And I remember the exact place I was and to whom I was speaking when I said it the first time.
Uh-huh.
And I remember the trembling that was happening in my gut as
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to myself and urging myself to say what I needed to say.
Mm-hmm.
It was rough and tough. And then I immediately turned on my heels and walked out of the office.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. Right. And going, did I really say that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, owning that power for the first time, you know, that's
Because the value of stopping the conversation and walking away is then you get to clarify what is really the deeper thing that I need to say, not the fuck you that wants to come out.
because if I stay here,
And I say, what's bubbling up inside of me?
a couple of things could happen.
Yeah.
I could shrink,
Mm-hmm.
right? And be obedient to the authority,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is a betrayal of to myself
Yes.
and so many other things, self-disappointment, self-betrayal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I could literally just tear this whole place down, right?
Yes.
Which is not in service to anybody,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, owning our power means that we're really considering all.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm.
considering all. We're
Mm-hmm.
considering ourselves. We're considering the impact we might have. We're considering the other,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so giving that pause is really generosity. It's kindness. Yes. And
To all concerned, because
that,
you have the opportunity to reflect and go, what is the real issue, not the surface, and how do I come back and speak to that in a way that I'm going to be heard or have the possibility of being heard
exactly.
versus discounted even before the words come out of our mouth.
Exactly.
Mm.
And it's an opportunity for someone else to show up differently as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is, and I do believe leadership is about love,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing the human in front of us
Mm-hmm.
in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
and reading the energetic signs for what's needed now.
Mm-hmm. It creates a pause for them as well.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Mm. So, given that you're shifting or clarifying or focusing even deeper, and the other thing I want to say is experience is our gift. Like, So many people want to leave their past behind as if it is some sort of horrible thing. But the truth is, our experience allows us to empathetically and compassionately be in the presence of people who have similar experiences
Absolutely.
because we know what it feels like.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, share with us how you do your work. What are the different ways you like to engage with human beings on your path and in your journey?
Oh my gosh.
Describe your work. I know you have a number of different things that you're doing right now, but if you had different sort of pillars, what would you say they are, and
Yeah.
what is contained within those pillars?
Yeah. So, one of the principles that I work by specifically is attention to the human that's in front of me.
Mhm,
You know, that's just how I've cultivated myself.
mhm,
And so, the way in which I do my work is through conversation.
mhm,
I enjoy being in conversation. And it's the thing that when my heart really drops into the conversation, I am committed for the experience of being with another. And so I coach one to one, I coach in groups,
mhm,
I retreat
mhm.
and go on retreats, and you and I have shared that experience together.
Yes.
Um, I have a course that's coming forward sometime soon here in the next month. Um, I have had the pleasure of um, doing several breakout sessions for several different organizations as far away as Indonesia and right here at home in Tennessee. So those are the ways in which I work when I can speak in front of people, when I can group coach or one-to-one coaching is so intimate and personal. And it's such a privilege to walk with people on their journey. So those are the ways in which I do my work.
So I know that before 2020, you were actively showing up in person and doing things.
Yeah.
How did the pandemic shift how you serve, how you deliver your work? Has it helped you expand your business?
Well, at first it was, this was quite different, a pandemic. Who's living today that experienced a pandemic 100 years ago?
Right.
So I'm not 100 years of age yet. I hope to get there. But so my business definitely did increase toward the end of 2020 and into 2020, 2021. Um, but going down into this, it was difficult, it was hard. There was a missing of relationship and conversation and connecting for me, for sure. There was a I don't know how to be with this
Mm-hmm.
feeling, for sure. But as we collectively began to move through it, things that I experienced was how to, using the technology that we have, how to be in community, how to remain connected, how to have conversations using technology. And so, of course, the Zoom meetings, the Go To meetings, the Microsoft Teams meetings, you name it, and then the whole being zoomed out. Those are ways in which I have connected and continued to grow and build my business, as well as through social media channels, being able to be interviewed with you, Karen, and a few others. I've been on a couple of podcasts over, 2020, 2021. Um, the telephone is still
Yeah.
a way to connect. I mean, yeah, ring, ring.
Hello. Anybody home?
Exactly. You know,
Yeah.
and I found a reprieve in being able to connect with people via the phone versus video conferencing. So that's how I was able to, and networking.
Mhm.
Even during this time, we could still network. And what that meant was, for me, sending an email, picking up the phone and calling and say, hey, I'm still alive. How are you doing?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so just letting people know I'm checking in on you, I'm still around, how can I support and be of service? So those things are how I've managed to really grow my business.
You also were part of a really beautiful women's collective. That was something that was just wonderful to see, that there are people out there who are gathering up powerful, empowered women with special, unique gifts and helping, deliver on a massive scale these beautiful opportunities. And I love seeing that women supporting women
Oh, absolutely.
energy.
Yeah,
So you got to experience that firsthand.
I did. Karen, I'm always, circulating in some form or fashion, whether that's in person or virtually. And something I kind of beat myself up on is, I could reach out a little bit more, but to your point, um, I do stay connected. Sometimes I don't, it's not enough. I need to do more. That story we always uh, perpetuate in our minds, but um, there are women that I stay connected to that invite me onto their platforms, that have an offering that I take advantage of, that provides me with more knowledge and information, and sometimes confidence to do a thing that I didn't know how to do or that I
Yes,
was afraid to do.
yes,
And then we promote each other, and that happened, yeah, the early part of this pandemic. And we were very supportive of each other, connecting with each other, inviting others in to our collective to do the same thing. And so that was a beautiful experience. The way it blossomed like a flower, like
yes,
literally blossomed like a flower. And that was a wonderful experience, and I'm still connected to many of those women.
yes. And then for me also, I just want to say that I was very resistant to the whole technology online sharing my work. And I definitely found that there were benefits. There's both sides, there's challenges and there's benefits. And the bottom line is, when you go virtual, you have a farther reach. You can have clients around the world. You can have people from other states on different sides of the country joining you in and learning from you, as opposed to just having those in person 10, 20, local people. Especially as we know in the Nashville area, there's just a saturation of so many options for
Mhm,
people to
mhm.
participate in. It's sometimes hard to get above the noise. So that's great. So you've cultivated these gifts. I know you've been on a journey, and you've brought in different gifts. Let's talk about the things that you believe are your gifts. I know circle process was meaningful for you, but what else has kind of happened to be in your toolbox that you enjoy using in your work?
Yeah, so I would say, I would say one of the tools that I enjoy using in my toolbox, I have this way of, when I speak, I'm in conversation, I'm in coaching mode with someone,
Mm-hmm.
I get a download of a picture.
Mm-hmm.
And I utilize that in service to the conversation and where my client wants to go. I find that to be a gift,
Mm-hmm.
something I was quite unaware of for a long, long time. That I see pictures, and those pictures help inform my
Mm-hmm.
conversations. Um, another gift is metaphor. I have a gift of metaphor and how I use metaphors in the coaching conversations to
Mm-hmm.
help paint a picture, to help give another perspective where one might be really stuck in one point of view.
Yes.
That's a gift. And I'm sure there are many others that people have called out, but I think really being present to others in the moment is it's a skill. Actually, I won't say it's a gift, but it's an always evolving skill, is to be present and listening with others. And so people have a sense of calm when they're with me. um, a sense of not being judged when they're with me. And I appreciate that acknowledgement. But yeah, I would say those are my gifts. And
Well, and what I want to say is early on when we reconnected 5 years ago, what you and I talked about was this concept of oracle,
oh,
idea of oracle. And so you described that what your gifts are in a very like sort of nice way. But there is an intuitive knowing and presence that you have, that is your energetic field. That's why people are drawn to you, because there is a sense of wisdom, and the way you deliver it is in such a kind, gentle, kind of compassionate way. The other, but I'm sure you can also be very forceful if someone's being challenging, not following. But I don't see that side of you very often. Um, but I wanted to say, what was it I was going to say? That, oh, and joy. Early on when we got to do the women's circles, you were doing more women's circles in person.
yeah.
The elation you had with bringing people together and creating a space and creating an experience, your joy infused the joy in the room. Emanation of joy most definitely is part of your gift. So
I I love you, Karen, because I forget. And so you reflecting back to me, and it is that natural thing that I do that I'm not always aware of. And so therefore it's like it's not top of mind with me. And so
yeah.
I appreciate you bringing that back to the forefront, to my attention. It is the thing that I hate to use the word proud of, but I I know that about myself and want to cultivate that more for the purpose of being in service,
Yes.
not for the purpose of bragging.
Mm-mm.
I get no, I get nothing from that. Bragging, I get nothing from that. So it is my intuitive self. And yes, joy, fighting for happiness is a daily chore because there's so much in the world that happens that can quickly bring us down into negative energy. And so whether your happiness is on a low vibration in any moment, do all that you can to hold on to it, because it's I have suffered from depression, and it's the thing that can lift you out. Is And I didn't used to like the word hope.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it felt empty to me. Hope for what? Being a Black woman in this body. What am I hoping for?
Mm-hmm.
And hope is that aspiration,
Mm-hmm.
that knowing within yourself that something is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as it's possible, I can continue to hope for and aspire for and work toward it. And so that joy, and when I'm serving others, oh my gosh, it's like I want the best of the best of the best.
And you deliver it. You absolutely do.
That's what I want. It's like, oh, I got to give you this. And did you know? And can I share this with you? And like,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, it's yes, that. So, question, are you doing this business, this coaching and facilitation full time, or do you do it in conjunction with another form of work?
I do it in conjunction with another form of work.
Mm-hmm.
I have been in nonprofit service for the past 22 and a half, 23 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I work with a local nonprofit that supports the public school system, the teachers, students, and families, with school supplies, with real life work experiences, experiential learning, reading mentorship, family resources. So, really wholeheartedly supporting the public school system in those four key areas to help children have academic success so
Yes.
that they can go on and live vibrant lives contributing to their communities.
So early on, when I first started doing frame drum wisdom, and I took the deep dive off out of the corporate realm and into the abyss, and I haven't had any part-time jobs for 8 years. I haven't had any other types of work. That was my choice. And upon reflection, it's not like I would go back and do it differently for me, but
Mhm.
so many women would come to me and see how I did it, and they would want to like annihilate their lives in order to follow their dream. And I really am clear that security at some level, financial security is so important, especially, and we'll talk about a little bit more about this later. If you have children, there has to be some level of financial stability so you know you have a roof over your head,
Yeah.
right? And so I love that you and I've been in relationship as you've been journeying through. I'll try to step off the, step out, and I did that for a while, and I need something else to be help me get to this other place. So
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about the importance of that in your experience?
Absolutely. And the thing that I'll preface this with is that everyone, I believe, has to create from themselves. It is so important to be able to do that. I've admired how you and your family, your partner, how you have navigated, going full time into entrepreneurship. I admire that. I thought that was something that I could do. When I left in 2018, it was really to go and start my business full time.
Mhm.
But I really was not prepared to do that financially. In fact, for those 10 months that I wasn't working in the traditional sense, we went through quite a bit of our savings just to sustain our
Mhm.
living circumstances.
Mhm.
And reflecting over that now, of course, I would do it differently, knowing what I know. And that is what led me back into full time work, but not giving up on my purpose.
Right.
And the people that I engage with, on a full time basis, Monday through Friday, they understand that this is a non-negotiable, that what I do in the way of coaching, this work that I do, it's a non-negotiable. It's my passion work. And that in order to get the full use of my gifts, that's something they have to come to accept. And when I found myself standing in that truth,
Mm.
it made anything else or their response or reaction to that pale in comparison. It was like,
Mhm.
whatever shows up after that is not my issue. What I'm sure about is that I'll be doing this work. I'll be doing this until my last breath,
Right. Yes.
because this is how I'm choosing to serve. This
Mhm.
is why I'm here.
Mhm.
And so I will say to anyone that's considering a path of entrepreneurship, you have to create it and design it for yourself. I would also say be gentle and kind to yourself. I would also say that how someone else does their thing does not necessarily translate to how you should do your thing.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes,
Beautiful.
I was out of work, unemployed, not working, trying to figure it out for 9 months,
Yeah.
literally 9 months, and keeping the bills paid. So I'm grateful for that. But it did eat through our savings, a
Mhm.
significant portion of our savings.
Yes.
And so um, when the opportunity came along, it wasn't something that I wanted. I didn't want it. But at the same time, I had to look at the reality and say, it's what's needed now.
Yes. Yes. Very good. Thank you. So, thinking about your life path and the shifts that you've made, maybe especially since you went to Bali those years ago, like how has your family and friends responded to the shift in Esther? Do you get any reflections back from family and friends about who you're becoming and who you were and
Family, no.
family? No.
Family, just they see you as you. That's true and not so true. I have nieces and nephews. Let me see. 15,
Mhm.
17, something
Wow.
number. I have a lot of nieces and nephews.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I'm a godmommy to a lot of other people, the children too. And I get acknowledgement from them.
Hmm.
I had a nephew say to me not long ago, he says, I have the best conversations with you, Auntie. He said, I get the most from our conversations. I had to have a poker face because that pulled on my
All
heartstrings.
right. Like,
you know,
you're the coolest aunt I have.
right, exactly. It's like, did he really just say that? Like,
Mhm.
wow. I just had to give it back to him, nephew. I love you, and I have the best conversations with you too. You know, and how some of my goddaughters tell me, you don't talk to us like we're kids. You talk to us like we're adults. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh wow. That was a oh wow moment. Like, really?
Mhm.
So the young ones recognize, because I do try to approach them a little bit differently. In terms of my friends, I find that birds of a feather flock together, right?
Mhm.
And so the women that I'm in circle with, I'm in community with, I'm in communication with, I'm reflecting out and getting back that as well. So as I change and transform, and they help lift and elevate me, I'm lifting and elevating them as I lift and elevate myself. So um, that change is acknowledged in those relationships too.
Yeah, yeah, right. We see the reflection in who we're in company with.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. But family, sisters, brothers,
That so Spirit did something bringing us all together. That constellation, you're like, oh my God, so much learning for opportunities with family.
yeah.
Or ignoring,
Or
whatever
ignoring.
the case may be. Um, so if our families are watching right now, we love you.
We love you. We honestly do love you.
We love you
And
so much.
they help me sharpen my sword. They help
Your
me.
skills, your
You
heart, sharpen your compassion,
Yep,
sharpen your, stand up and speak up for myself.
yep, yep.
Um, what keeps you focused on sharing your gifts?
Oh,
When life gets all and you're just like you slowly, then you get back to like, no, I got to do this. I got to do this.
oh, I've had the thought that, and I've literally laughed at myself. I'm driving down the road. I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm done. Like,
Yes. Been there recently. Like, what the fuck am I doing?
right? It's like, who are you lying to? Like, really? You're never gonna shut up long enough to not do this. So, through life's challenges, it has been that. But I find that giving myself a pause is so important.
Mhm.
Um, this month, in fact, I've really pulled back,
Mhm.
on my engagement to allow myself to be with myself and process and think,
Mhm.
do some future casting, if you will.
Mhm.
But having those breaks and letting my mind rest, letting me gather the golden nuggets that have, fallen my way, helps me a lot to stay connected. And then reflecting my clients, I don't stop thinking about them.
Yes.
When it ends, I don't stop thinking about them. I'm always evaluating. My critical brain is always activated. And how could I improve? What can I do more of? What can I do less of? And that's in service for the next person that I engage with. So I'm always reflecting over past relationships with clients, And that keeps me moving forward as well, especially when I hear from my past clients their successes
Yeah.
and how life has shifted and changed for them.
Yes. I definitely agree with you. Having one, I'm learning this year that's almost like more one-on-one clients for me too is golden, because the act of being present for them gets us out of our stinking thinking mind, the thing that can keep, like, what do you know that can really, but when you're present with someone else, you're giving them suggestions, you're listening, you're supporting them in stepping into their fullness. It just feels so good.
Yeah, it does.
And so that's fuel. And I think that for me, and I know this for you too, is we happen to be about the same age. You've hit the
Mhm.
55 mark a few months before me. I'll be hitting that in November. But this shift from capitalism, consumerism, drive for the product, to I'm serving humanity.
Yes,
I am living in service to human beings, to the upliftment of humanity, shifts everything
yes,
and gives meaning and purpose to every day
right, right.
when we allow it to.
Hmm.
And I love that you talked about that pause, because, like, energetically too, we're getting these major pauses, throughout, especially throughout the last year,
Hmm.
where we need to go inwards and reflect.
Hmm.
But we have been culturally taught that that's wrong, selfish, depression. It's like we've been labeled all of these things, that inner feminine
Hmm.
spiritually guided work is wrong, is bad.
Hmm.
And I'm finally noticing in the last week, I'm walking slower.
Yes,
I'm allowing space. I'm not driving myself to make the next class. I'm allowing myself to not know and be okay with that.
hmm,
There is discomfort in that, but I know that the longer I allow myself to be in it, the more comforting that space will be.
hmm, hmm.
And that, I think that's the age of wisdom. That's, the wisdom of our age coming into play.
Yes, it is. I love that you said that. The contrast that you were making from the push, push, push to the pull,
Mm-hmm.
um, that life really does want to be easeful.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a definite energetic shift from the go, 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 do to the more open ended being, which is also doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that our world can be so much more peaceful if we do slow it down.
Mm-hmm.
At the start of the pandemic was on those cold but sunny days, getting out, driving to the grocery store, seeing fewer cars on the road, but also witnessing people going for walks with their dogs, with their children, with the elders in their families, um, playing catch, you know, throwing the ball, the frisbee, the whatever. Um, Fewer lines, shorter lines in the store. It was like, what? What?
Mm-hmm.
And I found that it put a smile on my face when people were taking time for what was really most important to them.
Mm-hmm.
They had the time to utilize the time to do those things. Sure, we missed a lot. We did. We missed a lot over the last 16 months. But
Mm-hmm.
as things start to get back to some resemblance of normal, the stuff that's showing up, it It's very disappointing and disheartening to me what's showing up.
Mhm.
It's like we've not learned anything. Culturally, there's no shift in our behavior, in our learned habits,
Mhm.
you know. And maybe a year and a half isn't long enough to produce massive change.
Mhm.
And maybe all it was simply, you know, the batteries ran out of the clock and the clock got stuck to the hour that it was. And as soon as the batteries were replaced, the clock began to tick, 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 tick again, right?
Mhm.
And maybe that's all it was.
Well, and this is a good lead into our next topic, which has to do with family and children and life and, getting back into that hamster wheel mode. Um, some of us, I like to think that you and I have been affected and changed for good. This
Hmm.
idea of slowing down and the wisdom that we've gained is going to be reflected in how we work with people and what we instill in the people that we work with and support and facilitate with. So, you and I are unique treasures on planet Earth.
Yes,
I
we are.
said, I said, we're almost like a different species. I said, because you and I don't have children.
We
And
don't.
we've had conversations about being mothering people without our own biological children. And I want to take a moment to just talk about that. Um, and preface it that there's all that so many reasons why women don't have children. Either they can't, they've tried, they've miscarried, chosen not to, never wanted children, never thought about having children. And we're not going to get in all that detail, but I just want to just ask you what it's meant to you. Like, how have you come to terms with the idea that you don't have children?
Whew, that's a big one, Karen. I want to share something. At least I think I want to share something that's deeply, deeply personal. And I hope those that watch this playback don't judge me for it. But there was a time in my life where I was pregnant, and I made a decision to not follow through on that pregnancy.
Mhm.
And it was one of the deepest, longest held regrets that I had ever had because I knew I always wanted children.
Mhm.
And when that didn't happen for me, I've been in a long term relationship, married now. I don't know how many years I've been married. Someone else do the math, but we've been together since 1994. And when that didn't happen for us, it was devastating. And when we went through all of the things, the um, having your hormones checked, going to the specialist, all of the shots and injections, and just all the stuff. And what I didn't want for myself was I had a term for it. It won't come back to me now. But I did not want to be that woman who, time after time after time, found myself disappointed that there was a miscarriage. I didn't want to be chasing something that really felt like it wasn't for me.
Mhm.
I didn't want to be caught up in fertility specialist after fertility specialist after fertility specialist. And I'll also add to it that there was a great deal of fear that I carried with myself through this process. There's so much learning here for me to unpack this particular subject. But I will say too, we remain open to the possibility of being parents, but in a different way.
Mhm.
It won't happen the traditional way, if it happens at all.
Mhm.
We are open to mentoring and supporting and being parental guides
Mhm.
to the nieces and nephews that we have. We're open to being adoptive parents to adults who would like to have a mother and father figure in their lives. We're open to it in that way. The many, many stories, not just from women, but from men
Mm,
who cannot carry their seed forward.
mm.
Oh my gosh, that's an untapped story right there.
Yeah.
And to couples who decide together, I love you enough and you are enough, and let's ride this thing until the wheels fall off, right?
Right. Yes. Yes.
So there's so many stories, and I believe that just by you bringing this subject matter to the forefront, that and others, that we're going to begin to hear those stories,
Mm.
that we will not be sidelined and silenced, right? As
Yes.
women who have haven't had the opportunity to be a mother to a natural born child,
Yes.
you know. Our stories are going to be told, and the lessons from those stories are going to be documented, you know, that motherhood and nurturing has different pictures, different viewpoints, different stories. It looks different for everyone. And yes, in my opinion, it's a very special club to be a member of when you're a mom. But I'm also unique in my experience too, and I have a lot to share behind this as well. So
I was fascinated as I've started coming out of hibernation. One of the things that I started doing is getting out and playing tennis, and I haven't played tennis in like 25 or 30 years.
yeah,
And it's just fascinating to me how people who are total strangers start asking certain questions to kind of like figure out what you are, like what you're like, who and what you are, without, so do you have children? Like, so do you, no, nope.
yeah.
And it, and then it's like, oh,
What do they do with that? That
because
wasn't the answer.
right. And it's just fascinating to me because, and so often in women's circles and gatherings that I've created, I may be the only one or a few who don't have children. And 9 times out of 10, the topics end up being about the children and not about the mothers because their focus is on their children, which is where it needs to be.
Yeah,
And that's another aha that I've had literally in the last 6 months. And I'm really going to be a lot more like clear about that if people are gifted to be mothers in this lifetime, their responsibility is motherhood and grandmotherhood and great grandmotherhood for the rest of their lives.
yeah,
And that is an important role to play.
absolutely.
And that our culture has come to the place that it is because our children are not being paid attention to and are not being paid attention to. And so children need a safe place to land. They need a home. And if women have desires of being something greater than, they can do it on the side. They
Yeah,
can cultivate it on the side. And their priority needs to be to make sure that their children feel safe, loved, nurtured, and have a beautiful place to grow
yes,
from. Uh, and I'm noticing that, as I start talking to women who have children, instead of going like, be free, do what you want to do, now that's my life.
right. Yeah,
I don't have that level of responsibility to another human being. I have my dogs and my husband. I do have nieces and nephews. I do have godchildren in my world, and I know that I will serve them to the best of as I can. But I think the real gift of women right now without children is that we truly are the way showers. We have the time and energy to really help bring about a profound shift on the planet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I hope to cultivate more discussions and more circles with women who are like us
Right.
so that we can support each other to move beyond the, oh, you're not a mother
Right.
comment. When our babies are our purpose, our babies
Exactly.
are our soul's mission.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'll let you see if you want to say anything more about that.
Well, absolutely. So there are two things. When I first moved to the South from the Midwest, to your point, it's like, so, Esther, are you married? Do you have children? What church do you go to?
1, 2, 3, bing, bing, bing.
what? What? I, do we know each other? And it's like I don't even know how to respond to that. I still don't to this day know how to respond to that. It's like, is that the first thing? This is where we're going, you know? So I understand, that whole question, well, do you have children? When you're in a new environment and you don't they don't know you, you don't know them, and because it's like we struggle for having a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
What else can we talk about,
Mm-hmm.
right? That might even inform how we nurture children.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I don't know.
What do you love to do?
Right.
Where do you like to go?
What was the last good movie you saw? Did, what'd you have for dinner last night? You know, just a different kind of conversation. Um, the other thing that I'll just say is I agree with you wholeheartedly that nurturing children is the most prolific, profound experience that a parent can have. It is the most important role anyone who has the privilege of having children could possibly have. And I would say to any parent to deeply immerse themselves in that work.
Mm-hmm.
Consider that your passion,
Yes.
and there will come a time where shifts will happen along the way that will open up more time and space for a parent to engage in other interests. And I wouldn't necessarily regard children as an interest, as in a hobby. I'm not suggesting that. I hope they're more than that. But be mindful of the signs and those shifts, because that will inform you as a parent. And I guess for you and I not having children, I've had people say to me, well, do you have children? And no. Well, how would you know? Because I'm a feeling human being.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily have to have the experience of being a mother or parent, but I can see through a different lens shortcomings, missed opportunities, probably far sooner than a parent can because they're right in the middle of it,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I can see it from a broader view. So that's probably what I would add to that, is that there's value to women, to men who are not parents, however that is for them, to add to the conversation, stories in which we have to share that is of service to those who are parents.
Yes. Absolutely.
but not to be dismissed, disregarded because we don't care. We don't wear the shield of mommy or daddy.
Right. Or stop the conversation because you're married, you don't have children, and you don't go to the right church.
Or church at all.
Ah! Oh gosh. We have traveled a lot of beautiful terrain here. And I'm going to bypass, let's talk about money. You and I are abundantly continuing to manage and figure that out. When to volunteer our time, when not to volunteer our time, and to value ourselves.
Money's not a destination. I will say money's not a destination.
Very good.
I will also say that money is it's currency and it's a current.
Mm.
I will say that this is my new revelation
Mm.
around. I have a money story,
Okay.
and one that limits me. And what I'm coming to understand is, because it took me a long time, I'm hearing out here in the ethers, money is energy. It's an energetic exchange, what? And I'm like, I'm missing it. It's missing me. But I've given that some more thought and defined it in that way. Number one, it's not a destination.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, we can't apply our value to money.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough money. There's just not.
Yeah.
Some would say differently, but I'm in this body and you don't have enough,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And then number three is money is an energetic exchange. And what works for me is that it's currency and therefore it's a current. It comes and it goes. It flows exactly.
And it has to keep flowing in order for it to, because so it was people who like save and save and save and save and tuck it, tuck it, tuck it, tuck it, and hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, aren't actually living in the energy exchange.
Exactly.
Yeah. If
Exactly.
you're holding, then it's going to be a withholding.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's good.
So, what do you hope, as we reflected on all of these different things, what would you hope to convey to people before we kind of go into what your upcoming offerings are? If there was some things that you wanted to leave your nieces and nephews with, like what piece of gold, what nuggets do you want to make sure people hear from Esther, as far as in this moment of your lifetime?
I think it's real simple. Love yourself and love yourself more. And I don't mean that in a, it's me, 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 me. I don't think that translates into genuine, authentic love. And when I say that, I mean less judgment of self and more empathy for self, less criticism of self and more exploration of self is what I mean when I say love yourself more. I believe empathy and curiosity are powerful ways to serve. Curiosity just opens up. I mean, really keep turning it, keep turning it, keep turning it, turn it, and again, and some more, and find all the ways in which you can explore and be curious about something. And when we don't understand, open ourselves up to more understanding. And the way in which we can do that is through curiosity. Simply asking ourselves, asking others, what, how, why? So I would probably, that would be the thing is love yourself more in ways that allow you to be more empathetic and curious and compassionate. From that, innovating, creating, navigating, and taking action can be so much more easier. Yeah. So when we have to confront judgment and criticism all the time, it just shuts all that other stuff down
Mhm.
and keeps us stuck.
Yeah. Loving and knowing yourself, falling in love with yourself, appreciating your uniqueness.
Yes.
You know that phrase, love yourself as love your neighbor as thyself or as
Hmm.
yourself. Well, like we are a culture of people who are not loving ourselves. So like no wonder we have conflict with our neighbors.
Hmm. Yep.
So it really is this beautiful inner awareness and journey that we need to take, be courageous to take, to come to a place of love
Yes.
for who and what we are and the package we came in and all the gifts that
Hmm.
we came to the world with.
Hmm.
Yes,
Hmm.
beautiful. So, what do you have coming up in terms of offerings that you'd like to share?
Well, definitely, and thank you for that. I am always enrolling new clients into coaching conversations, so that's always ongoing. And if someone is in need of having a different kind of conversation, unlike any they've ever had, and they're wanting to achieve something in their lives, and they know they have to be different in some way in order to attain that goal, then I'm happy to talk with them. The other thing that I'm doing that I'm really, really excited about is I am enrolling folks into a group coaching program in the coming month or so. And if they would like more information about that, they can reach out to me via email. But what that is, it's a deep exploration for what holds us back, what gets in the way. And
Mhm.
so when we understand the enemy, and then we know the war that we're fighting, and we
Mhm.
can show up prepared for that.
Mhm.
So this is an exploration into how we as humans get in our way. We identify those aspects of ourselves, the victimhood, all right, or the hypervigilance that we live in. And so we'll explore all of those aspects and characteristics, the lies that we tell ourselves, the stories we make up, the negative thoughts that we have. And then we'll give ourselves an opportunity to go from surviving to thriving.
Mm, lovely.
Yeah. So that's what this next group coaching program will be about. And I'm excited to share that and move that forward.
Quick, a couple questions, clarifying questions. When people work with you one on one, is there like a time span that you like to like
Yeah.
commit to?
Yeah. So there's a 3-month commitment and a 6-month commitment. For others, it could be longer, but those are typical. Pretty standard, I think you would find in most coaching relationships, is a 3-month commitment or either a 6-month commitment.
Okay,
Mhm.
great. And then with your group coaching, what's the ultimate size of the group? What have you found for yourself as a good uh, uh,
Five.
container? Five,
Five.
five.
Five is a really good container,
Mhm.
I think, for people to come together in the collective and glean wisdom and share wisdom with each other.
Mhm.
I think five is a really good number.
Great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
So, if people are interested in checking in with you about your coaching services and this upcoming collective group coaching, how do they reach out to you?
absolutely. So you can reach me by email. Email address is engage at ebbandflowcoaching.com. And ebb and flow is spelled EBB, the letter N, FLOW coaching.com.
Yes. And I will also have it in the it's listed on the information about, where this video is being posted and everything on YouTube. So your contact information will be there as well.
Awesome.
And so with that, we're coming to a close. And I just want to thank you so much for your authenticity, your vulnerability, your sharing so beautifully today, Esther. I always know that you will do that once we sink in. It's such a joy to be with you and to be on this journey with you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else bubbling up with you that you want to leave people with before we close?
I would probably say again, spend more time with yourself. I find that some clients are they have full, very busy lives. I get it. And yet they often neglect time with themselves. And so I would say spend a little bit more time reflecting, reconnecting to yourself. I think there's huge benefit there for how you choose to show up in the world, to your family, to your work, whatever it is that you're doing. Um, I would say do that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, all of you who have come and listened to our conversation together. May you be inspired. May you be blessed. May you find your true soul's purpose and know that there are people out here who value helping you, to uplift you, to help encourage you to activate your soul's gifts so that we can collectively change what's happening on planet Earth. I firmly believe that as each one of us does the work to heal ourselves and clarify who we are and our greatest gifts, that we will collectively change what's happening on the planet. And while we may not see major shifts in our lifetime, we know that we are a ripple of goodness that is going to help shift things in the future. So, blessings to you all. Again, thank you, Esther.
Thank you, Karen.
See you next time.
Yes, thank you.